Good day, good day, good day, good day, good day. This is Brother Jose. I am going to send the link to Brother Hercules now so he can come in. I'm going to send him the link now so he can come in. So, see him in a few, Brother Hercules should be here in a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and send him the link so he can come in. Right, I just sent him the link there for him to come in. So I'll give him a few minutes to come in. See, DMG is coming in there. He should be here, so hopefully he'll be in a few minutes. I just dropped.
Oh, Jose.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna have to teach you. I'm gonna have to teach you some. Why is it an echo?
I don't hear an echo, no. So that has to be in your
I don't know where that's coming from. Hold on. That might be on my side.
It is because mine is coming out.
Clear that up. I think I got it. Okay, cool. So listen, you don't go live until your guest is in here and y'all can kind of go over the format of the show, because I think he got a presentation.
I think so,
we should probably have. Yeah. You didn't came in and hit live and just jumped the gun.
I realized DMG. It didn't even give me an intro. I don't know why.
Because it ain't one up there right now.
Oh, I'm just making sure. It normally does one.
Yeah. Nah. Like I say, normally wait till the guests come in so you can go over whatever you got to go through with them. He may need you to share a screen, things like that. You never know.
Well, I'm trying, DMG. I'm trying, man. Yeah, they give me the grace period, man. You know I'm not the infamous one.
I know.
So I have to learn. I'm trying.
I know. Because look, the people here to see Brother Hurt, and we ain't even got him.
Nah, I did email him the link, so hopefully he'll be in soon. I sent
it to him. I inboxed it to him as well. So,
but I don't have a number for him, so I couldn't WhatsApp it then.
And then I got his number also. So,
right.
I'll
how's everything? Everything's good.
We'll talk offline.
So what should I do by the time?
Shout out to Daryl Cosmine, man. We got to get you back in here. Man. Last time you was here, you set the joint on fire. We still got to visit that GT debate, brother. We got to get you back in here. Hey, Jose, this brother Daryl Cosmine, we did a joint late at night, and he had like 50 people up in here at like 11 o'clock at night.
All right, DMG. You know I'm on a mission against anything named Cosmine right now, so.
Man, you got listen. You a host now. You can't be having no personal vendettas.
All right, cool. I'm gonna put it to the side.
Yeah, you got to put that to the side for the betterment of the platform.
Hey, look, Hercules here.
Herc in the building.
So what's up, Herc? Talk to me.
Hey, family, I just want y'all to know Hercules is finna break some stuff down to you, no matter what you believe in. or don't believe in, please get a brother a fair opportunity to say his piece, hear him out. He may hit you with some stuff that, make you have to think a little bit. So don't be closed-minded to it because you have a particular mindset. The brother is one of the few brothers who come in these spaces who is actually educated. Matter of fact, he's an educator. So just because you see me arguing back and forth with him, don't think I don't respect where he coming from. That being said, man, Jose.
Yes, sir.
You getting this hosting thing down, man. Let's see how you do. Let's see how you do with my man Hercules. In the meantime, in between time, Hercules, you got something you want to share right quick? Are you doing you gonna share your presentation?
Yeah.
Go ahead and bring it up, and we'll leave it in the back. I'm gonna play this, and then y'all gonna be off to the races. I'm gonna get out y'all way.
No problem. Thanks for the help, DMG.
I told y'all what to step into. I ain't disrespecting you, son. You wanted to be that way. What? You wanted to be that way. What is the other way?
Yeah. Funny how everybody loved the debate till the judges say they lost. Funny how everybody claimed they want smoke till the scorecards come across.
My name is my name.
Everybody gangster when the verdict go their way. Taking victory laps, posting on social media all day. But let them catch an L, now the judges all corrupt. Now the rules wasn't fair, now the platform messed up. When you won, it was justice. When you lost, it was rigged. When the spotlight was on you, man, you danced a little jig.
Funny how the narrative changes overnight. You a scholar on Monday, by Tuesday ready to fight.
Y'all don't want accountability, you want applause. Want championship treatment without championship flaws. See, debate ain't about feelings, it's about evidence, argument, and skill. Sometimes you climb the mountain,
sometimes you fall down the hill. You want it to be one way,
but it's the other way.
but it's the other way.
When you win, it's all love.
When you lose, it's another day. You want it to be one way,
But it's the other way.
the same judges you praised last month ain't fair today. You want it to be one way,
But it's the other way.
the facts don't bend for feelings, no matter what you say. My name,
Yeah,
my name.
the hate got me laughing. It really tell the story. If the platform wasn't working, why they obsessed with my glory? Every week somebody got an opinion to proclaim, but they still tune in faithfully. That's free promotion of the name. Paradigm shift, TV 314 still standing, while critics in the comments keep demanding and demanding. See the infamous perspective, giving viewpoints room to breathe. The black church files digging deeper than was seen. The Kemet takeover, bringing culture to the floor. The GT perspective, asking questions they ignore. Here you get many choices. Ladies' night, giving divas voice.
Jose and Herc, it's on y'all.
Yeah, man. So go ahead, Herc. When you're ready.
Wait a minute. Yeah, I'm ready. Wait a minute. Where's full screen at? Hey, can y'all hear me? I'm good.
If you could hear the brother, just put a 1 in the chat or a thumbs up to let him know you could hear. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's audio
they
clear.
can hear me.
I can hear you perfectly well.
All right, good.
So I'm not hearing anybody complaining in the chat, so you should be good to go.
So here it is. Finally here. I'm just sorry. I'm just trying to get myself in the mood. But hey, what's going on, fam? It's Hercules.
So are you doing a particular call out to anyone in particular, or you're just doing a general presentation?
It's just a presentation, man.
All right, cool. Just making sure.
Jose, he calling me out. What you mean?
Well,
Nah,
I didn't want to say that.
Salute.
I didn't want to say that. I thought you were.
Salute, Herc. Glad you was able to do it over here, bro. I know you could have did it anywhere, but we glad you here with us. Y'all enjoy the presentation. I'm gonna try to jump back once they open it up for the chat.
No problem.
Definitely. All right.
But just so you know, Herc, if you do want to call someone out, you could do so. If you want to do a specific call out on someone, you could do that.
I know. If I'm called somebody, I ain't got no problem with doing that.
No, I'm just giving you the opportunity to do it now before, and if you don't, that's cool. You're just doing a general presentation to let people know your view on Christianity. So go ahead, go in. Everybody's saying you're coming in loud and clear, so you can go ahead.
All right. So, I wanted to talk about this because it's it's a topic for our people, and it's always been whether or not. And for me, I guess for me growing up, it's always been how could it not be? I never understood. Not that I never understood, but it was hard for me to see how Black people could not see it being Eurocentric. Having this European influence on it, and that's always been an issue for me. It's always been an issue with me. I was like, how do you not understand that? So I want to go into not heavy detail, but I'm gonna go in just showing a little things and discussion, and hoping I could just show you how. And it's up to you if you want to. There are ways to change it. I should have added that at the end. I wanted to add that, but I just didn't have time really to add the recommendations, because that'd have been just extra layer. But anyway, my references is where I'm coming from, foundations that I've been reading, especially over the years. You see White Racism by Joe Covell, Meta Nature by Jacob Carruthers, The Iceman Inheritance by Michael Bradley, Byzantium by John Norwick, Rugu, Maringa Ani, Traditions of Western Civilization, and This Kingdom of Glory, the First Council of Nicaea, Ancient Egypt, Light of the World, and the Christian Empire and the Spirits. So those are some of just the foundations where I'm coming from, and you see where I'm standing on. So, a profound historical reversal shapes today's global religious and geopolitical environment. What originated as a spiritual framework rooted in the cosmic sciences of the Nile Valley was appropriated, simplified, and repurposed to advance Western dominance. Through an examination of structural, psychological, and mathematical dimensions, this analysis traces Christianity evolution from its ancient African allegorical origins into a mechanism that reinforced European state authority and systems of global racial hierarchy. So that's where we're coming from, all right? So we're going to look at this from an African-centered point of view, all right? And we got to understand that we're looking at something that is non-linear and having a multidisciplinary approach to it. So it's not just one way of looking at it, which most people do. And I'm not doing that. I don't do that. A little something. I don't know. I just put this joint in there to create this joint. So for me, it's like I said, for me, I've been doing this, studying this ever since, I was in my 20s, teenager. Just something that I've been looking into. It's not something that, what I'm saying, is new for me. When I'm reading, I've read when I read these books, I've been reading them over the years, and then it started to all sync up when you start to analyze things all together. So I'm standing on the shoulders of the elders that came before me, the works that they did. So that's where I'm coming from. And one of the works that I want to look at is Marimba Ani's that we're going to use a lot. Is Marimba Ani's Urugu. And in her work, it is a critique of Western civilization. And she says, the one thing that she's pointing out, that you cannot critique Western civilization using Western tools and Western standards. You got to step outside the box. So she used African culture as her center and her focus to look at Western culture, which a lot of us don't do. And we forget that we were educated in a Western culture. So we think like Westerners. So she has these 3 words that she uses a lot in her works. Utumawazo is that the idea of universalism, the ideological doctrine of European superiority. And the Utumaroho is the progressivism, the methodology of European supremacy. It's destructive, it's consuming, it's expanding. The Utumawazo is imperialistic, it's absolutistic, it's monolithic. And the Asili is the seed of their culture. It's the seed of a culture. It seeks energy by imposing disorder on the world through racial and cultural domination. So these are key Swahili words that she uses to explain their culture when she's examining. So again, I forgot the name of the fallacy. That you cannot use A to point to A to prove A. You can't do that. So this is why she decided, you have to step away from their culture and analyze it from, even if you're Chinese people do this too. They analyze Western culture from their worldview, not from a European worldview. So this is where I'm coming from. Transformation. The transformation of Christianity into a European state religion represents a systematic shift in history. It moved from an African cosmic and allegoric worldview into a linear weapon of imperial expansion. Now, for those of y'all who say, well, it didn't come from Kemet, it is not a copy from that Asara Set story. That's not it. Fine. That's fine. Even without the Kemetic roots, this presentation focuses on how a fluid communal Levantian West Asian spiritual movement was captured, broken down, and rebuilt into a tool for European imperial dominance. So it ain't got to come from Kemet. That doesn't change. That does not negate my premises at all, because the results still the same. The results still the same. Phenomenological versus ideological. Marimba Ani says religion is integrally related to the development of ideology in the West. For that reason, and because of the unique nature of European culture, it is critical to make clear what I mean by religion. This is important because what is identified formally in the European experience as religion often has very little to do with what is understood generally as religious in the phenomenological sense. And this is one of the key elements. When you're looking at the history of this, these are two worldviews, two distinct worldviews that you have to understand. In a phenomenological sense, generally religion implies a cosmic mystical experience, an emotional or spiritual connection to the universe, nature, and the divine. This is a continuous, open, reciprocal relationship. The European formal experience, Ani says that In the West, religion is stripped of its fluid cosmic sense. Instead, it is systematically repurposed to function as the primary structural matrix for the culture. Secular and political ideology, it is an apparatus engineered to enforce order, define boundaries, and legitimize power. So there is a difference in this, and the worldviews are completely different. African worldview and the European worldview are complete opposites. Their epistemologies are complete opposites, and that's one thing that we don't understand as Black people growing up in a Western culture. So we have to understand that the Europeans stripped that cosmic element and essence from the spirituality, from spirituality. All right, and so it's a different way of looking at the world. They use what she called their Utamawazo, that structured thought, that cultural thought in their culture. It takes the data. Think of it as taking the data that's supposed to be a the data from high context and spiritual, and compresses it into a low context and for control. So this is what they did. The start of alienation. Wait a minute, real quick. Okay. All right. I just wanted to see something. All right. What the Greeks developed in regards to wisdom was not so much logos, but fundamental alienation. They were not, however, the inventors of the perspective of metaphysical alienation, which goes back to ancient Mesopotamia. Rather, the Greek philosophers attempted to temper the metaphysics of alienation with Kemetic wisdom. So what is he saying? He's saying that alienation didn't start with the Greeks. All right? You got to remember that. It didn't start with them. It started with Mesopotamia. Started with the people from the Levant. That's why I added them. And what the Greeks did when they learned from Kemet, they was trying to keep that alienation energy that was coming from the culture tamed. That's some things that Plato and Socrates and them, that's what they were doing, but they couldn't maintain it because the Asili, as Marimba Ani talks about, it demands power. All right, it demands for you to be destructive in their culture. Alienation. The Mesopotamians conceived of the gods and human beings as two hostile races. The divine tribe had all the advantages. The human tribe had nothing. This is the basic context of human alienation shared by the people of Mediterranean antiquity outside of Africa. Now, I know that you guys, most of y'all haven't read, Jacob Carruthers' work, but what he's saying is true. When you look at the cosmology of the Mesopotamians, their stories, what do? It is hostile. They're fighting their gods. This is what you see. This is how you explain. This is the cause of the alienation, that this separation from nature, separation from the creator. You don't see that in African culture. You didn't see that in Kemet. In the Babylonian epic, creation begins with the violent civil war among the gods. The young storm god Marduk battles the premium ocean goddess of chaos, Tiamat. Marduk slaughters Tiamat, splits her corpse into two like a dried fish, and use her upper half to create the sky and her lower half to create the earth. Interesting. Because everything in the cosmos originates from Ptah, thought and speech. Every tree, animal, river, and human contains a spark of the divine consciousness. Nature is not an enemy to be conquered, but a sacred mirror of Ma'at. So you see, for black people, nature was not an enemy. But for these people from out of the Mediterranean who were not black, they saw nature as a threat. They saw the universe as being hostile to them. That's why they created that cosmos where they're fighting and they don't trust their gods. That didn't happen with us. Another significant aspect of Mesopotamian cosmology is the generation of speech. After the creation by naming, speech turns into a deceptive device whereby the gods trick humans into making wrong decisions. Thus, humanity cannot know whether the divine speech is true or lies. We learned that the gods create human beings only to serve them. Most important of all, these slaves of the gods were denied immortality. Human life was viewed as short, miserable, and uncertain. Different world views. You have different world views. One people who's looking at the world as hostile to them, looking at the environment as being hostile. They develop a framework, a mindset that the universe is against them. And then you have another people looking at the world as loving and trusting, being one with the nature, being one with the universe. This is where Diop came up with the two cradle theory. So all this ties in. I know y'all like, how is this going to tie into, because it has nothing to do. No, it does. It really does. But because, some of you guys stay narrow-minded and you don't expand and understand all of the history, you're not making these connections. So this is why I'm making these connections. Carruthers said that alienation is not an invention of the 4th century Roman Empire. It is a psychological and theological disease that developed thousands of years earlier in early Eurasian and Mesopotamian cultures. When early Christian writers from the early hundreds formulated their theology, they were writing in languages and using worldview structures that had already been thoroughly infected by this ancient ideology of alienation. I don't think y'all get that. That went over y'all heads. When early Christian writers formulated their theology, they were writing in languages and using worldview structures that had already been thoroughly infected by this disease of alienation. When DMG asked me, hey man, how can it be Eurocentric where Europeans wasn't they wasn't the writers?
Hey, Herc. Watch how you do my voice now. If you gonna repeat what I said, talk like I talk.
So it's this. You guys are not seeing it. You got to remember that these writers, when they writing this stuff, they're not coming from an African point of view. They may not have been Europeans. Some of them may have been black. But the key point that you all are forgetting is that y'all guys seem to think that miseducation only happened one time in history. But it didn't. Y'all forget. Amos Wilson talked about this. Carter G. Woodson talked about the miseducation of the Negro, black skin, white man for Frantz Fanon. This wasn't the only time in history. When they was writing the Gospels, when they was writing the Christian, when they was writing in the beginning, who was in control? Where were they learning from? Where did they learn how to write, how to read? Where did they learn how to draw their conclusions from? This was when the Greeks controlled the area. They learned from the Greeks. So their mindset was already compromised by a group of people who saw the world, who saw nature and the universe hostile to them. They was already thinking this way of hostility from a universe that was hostile. All right. So, and I'm going to talk about, we'll get into a little more with Joe Covell in his book, White Racism, when you talk about this is a psychological anxiety that was created in these people. And in Africa, there was no cursed earth. No, humans wasn't cursed. You know, we were blessed. We are part of the creation. We were one with the Creator. They didn't see us as being cursed and cast out. That comes from I'm being anachronistic and saying Europeans, but you know, what did the ancestors call them? The Tamu. So Amu. So it's what can I say? Amu-centric worldview that they had. Because that comes from them. That didn't come from Black people. All right, having this diametrically opposed view of the Creator and humans, between nature and humans. That's not the African way. That is not the Black way. So again, at this time period when people were writing this stuff, they were being educated educational system, just like today, was of that Eurocentric or Amocentric education. It wasn't an African-centered education at all. During the Ptolemaic era, when the Greeks were studying in Kemet, the Greeks took the software of Kemet, but they stripped away the operational context, the understanding that these numbers were anchored to the Earth's magnetic and gravitational field. The Greeks created philosophy, this love of wisdom, but the Commission's practice were kept, knowing of reality. One is mental pursuit, the other is functional manifold management system. And I talked about this before, that the difference, because you hear people say, well, the Greeks, they learned from Kemet, man, they learned from the people. So what? Yeah, they learned. However, it didn't register with them. It didn't stick with them. Like Maria talk about, it went against their asili. It went against their culture, that inner spirit in them. And so they reformulated what they learned. And so you see when you look at the Greeks, it was more of this idea of having, mathematics being pure and beautiful and about a theory. So not that we can't say that the people of Kemet didn't understand theories or write theories, because most of the stuff was destroyed, but it was more understanding of functional mathematics. So it was a different approach. What they learned, they changed it. In the early schools of what was to be considered Greek philosophy, the teachings of the pharaonic science are evident, and what continues to be developed as science was heavily influenced by what had received in Kemet. What began to change, however, was the approach and attitude of objectification. That's my emphasis underlined added. So that was the change. They began to objectify things more than what they did in Kemet. So it was a different approach. It was a shift. And these are things that you're not considering. And there was a mental shift. Again, I say that the African epistemology and Western or European epistemology are complete opposites. If you don't understand that, you're just not going to understand. So what did the Greeks do? They filtered it. They filtered their knowledge. What they learned in Kemet, it went through a filter. It sifted out through their brains, filtered out, came out through that in their writings differently. And it's gonna be okay, you guys. I think this is the only math equation I put on there. I think it's the only one. But I'm just showing you this shift. What I put on, you see on the right side of the screen with psi, is equaling alpha the divine plus beta nature plus that gamma humans. It equals 1. It's all 1. Why? Because the divine and humans are 1. But you have a culture, when you have this alienation, a cultural alienation. So this is an a dot product. I'm showing you from a dot product perspective. You can see this. This 1 minus the divine and humans equals 0. Because in the dot product, when you when it equals 1, that shows you that you're in line. When it equals 0, that's a you're in perpendicular. All right. So they filtered out the knowledge, and it showed they was in contrast with. We already talked about them being in contrast with nature. So this, I'm just showing you that mathematically they was in contrast with nature, whereas the African people was in harmony with nature, and we know that. But this stuff has to be taken into consideration when we talking about it being a Amu-centric or European-centric religion. We have to start with the beginners, the Greeks. And he says, in Deleuze's view, the materialistic mental split from the spiritualists, beginning with Xenophanes in the eclectic schools of philosophy, 530 before the Common Era. With the split comes the beginning of the separation between science and religions through religious thought and ritual. And we know that they did this. All right. We know that they had this, separation. They started talking about in Xenophanes, he started talking about, I think about it, go into it yet. Xenophanes talks systematically attacked the foundational methodologies of ancient Greece and replaced them with a model of pure rationalism. Before Xenophanes, the Greeks viewed nature as a living canvas of divine action and spiritual ritual. A rainbow was a goddess. Lightning was Zeus throwing that bow. Xenophanes attacked all of this and say, let's just get to the pure physical explanation of this. You don't have to put attributes on them and give them names like the African people did. So they moved away from this. They was making this rational argument that, hey, let's just talk about it, today, what the pseudo killers do. They Ankh and them do. You ain't gotta, we could just talk about the math. We could just talk about the science. We science advocates over here. There ain't no thing of spiritual, man. That's that BS that they talk about because their minds are warped by Eurocentric education. And most of our minds are. We all are. But we have to break away from that. Break the psychological chains. Where the Kemetic sage looked at the universe and saw the Neteru, the divine, the living laws of nature operating in perfect interconnectedness and harmony. Xenophanes initiated the Western elastic split by reducing Iris to a more mechanical cloud. Xenophanes stripped the cosmos of its soul. This act of objectification laid the psychological foundations for Europeanized Christianity that viewed the physical world not as a sacred manifestation of the divine, but as an empty, godless territory waiting to be conquered by an empire. And Euthyphro, Socrates asks a famous question: is there something pious because the gods love it, or does the gods love it because it's pious? This question arises because the Greek gods like Zeus and Poseidon were routinely depicted as murderous, adulterous, and warring amongst themselves. Morality had to be separated from the gods and debate using human intellect. And Kemet, this dilemma could never exist. The Netaru were the very expression of cosmic order and balance. Right conduct was not a matter of intellectual debate or pleasing a temperamental deity. To be moral was simply to be in tune with nature. You guys are forgetting this. That when they view the world, when you read their cosmology, you see their creators and gods, they're fighting them. They're lying to the people, deceiving them. This is not an African view. This is not a black view. And this all plays into the development and the origins of Christianity. Like I said before, when it started, you're looking at people when they was learning. They're drawing their conclusions because they were educated to think like the Greeks. The philosopher King versus a Nisibiti. In Book 5 of the Republic, Plato concludes that society must be rigidly stratified, ruled by an elite class of philosopher kings who use intellect, laws, and even the noble lies to force citizens into moral behavior. The Kemetic state was not an artificial intellectual construct designed by political scientists. The Nisibiti was not a director or a philosopher king, dictator or a philosopher king, ruling by intellectual decree. The Nisibiti was the living embodiment of Heru, whose sole cosmic duty was to establish Ma'at and drive out Isfet. That is a difference, a complete difference. And now we come to my man, Constantine the Great. This is one of my favorite books. I gotta say, the books, the series on European history, his Byzantium series, 3-volume series is great. It was now toward the end of 324 that Constantine decided on the final solution to the problem. There would be no more synods of local bishops. Instead, there would be a universal council of the church, a council of such authority and distinction that both parties to the dispute would be bound to accept its ruling. And we all know about the Council of Nicaea, right? It was he who proposed the insertion into the draft statement of belief, of the key word that was to be settled, the fate of Arius and his doctrine. This was the word homoousios, meaning of one substance, to describe the relation of the Son. Why I put E in there? Of the Son to the Father. Many of the bishops of Arian sympathies protested, but by the time he finished, nearly all the pro-Arians had agreed. Only 17 maintained their opposition, a number that the threat of exile and possibly excommunication subsequently reduced to 2. So we know he used his influence. He used his influence to make that change. Constantine, brutal. That man was brutal, though. In both culture and personality, are congruent systems mediated by a set of symbols. It should be possible to array those symbols into a coherent form which expresses certain critical historical relationships. This form cannot be linear. That is, That is, one is to be one to one between personalities and cultural structures. Neither system is linear in itself. Both are organic, unified synthetic entities within which interlock elements play out a myriad of connected relationships. So, wait a minute. Hold up. All right, I just need it. All right. So, what is he getting at? There is a shared system, a shared cultural symbolism is what he's talking about amongst these people from the Mediterranean, from the Levant. And he explains this in detail. The ancient Mesopotamians live in an environment with unpredictable violent flooding from the Tigris River and the Euphrates River. Their categorical triggered their geographic triggered their latent glacier psychological trauma. As Carruthers note, they viewed their gods as capricious, angry, tyrants, and the universe as a chaotic battlefield. They codified their evolutionary alienation into the world's first pessimistic sky god religions, placing the divine far away from the corrupted earth. When the Greeks inherited this psychology, they attempted to use their intellect to manage this internal anxiety. They went to Egypt to study a harmonious African worldview. However, because their psycho-behavioral matrix was rooted in glacial adaptation, they could not absorb the meta nature holistically. Instead, they weaponized Egyptian knowledge, breaking it down into code, detached logic to categorize, master, and control a world they still fundamentally feared. This is what happened. They took that knowledge and they put it through a filter, as I already said. So what Joe Covell was talking about was that this system, the system of symbols we could see in the different, and even though these are different, we've seen them as different. You can say they're different groups of people, but they have the same silly that's driving their culture, and you see the same things: a anxiety, an alienation towards nature, and they alienated themselves from the universe. They both saw it as being hostile towards them. Now, Michael Bradley, in the Iceman Inheritance, he says, this. I wouldn't say that it is a biological thing, because even though we see the Chinese and Japanese, even though they grew up and raised in cold environments as well, you saw them still being harmonized with nature. The yin and yang concepts comes from out of China. They still saw this balance. You have to have a balance. So, Michael Bradley was saying that, because they grew up in this harsh environment, that they developed this anxiety and alienation towards the universe. And I don't think it was a biological thing, though, because, like I said, we see the Asians growing up in a harsh environment as well, but they didn't develop this alienation. But what the people did that came from the Levant, these Amu, that our ancestors called them, these foreigners that came into the land, people, it's unique to them. And what did it create? A topological flattening. This is what Constantine did. He didn't invent a new religion, but rather allowed the European assembly to fully claim and reshape an ancient African mythos. You see, the God was strictly greater than the European. The Pope was strictly greater than the European citizens, strictly greater than the other nature. And this is what he did. And the Council of Nicaea. I want y'all to think the picture of the Northern Lights. Before that, excuse me, picture the Northern Lights. Think of, Christianity and Jesus, as the Northern Lights. It was beautiful. It was there up in the heavens. It was beautiful, this concept that they had. It was a beautiful thing that you are connected with the Creator. And what Constantine did was like, oh, no, nigga. He grabbed it and he smashed it. He flattened it, brought it down to the earth and said, no, we only going to have one. And he changed it. So when I'm seeing this, you're looking at the European Utamawazo in action. All right, the Asili and the Utama combined, they causing this topological flattening of the gnosis, the beginning of the Christian worldview, because it wasn't. You got to remember, it wasn't. They had that argument and debate. Was it actually Jesus actually real or literal, or was it more of a spiritual thing? And so what Constantine did was said, "Nah, we're going to go with it's real, and that's it. There's no more talking about it. There's no more ambiguity about it. It was over with." And that's what happened. He created a topological boundary around this idea. That's what they did. It wasn't open anymore. He broke the cosmic loop that was before, and they put a topological boundary on it. So it was nothing new. We know that. But what the Asili, from their culture, what it allowed them to do was to reshape the mythos that came from the Levant, or that came from out of Africa. That's what they did. And this is considered to be a phase transition. Mathematically, the historical event of 325 CE was not a theological evolution, but a phase transition. The structural properties of the original system, cyclical high entropy open manifold, were altered by a powerful external vector. This vector compressed the system into an entirely different geometric topology. The data remained superficially similar, but its operational capacity was inverted to serve as a machine for global conquest. The data remained superficially similar, but its operational capacity was converted. And this is what, when, what's the guy? Easy Band said the other day, Christianity hasn't changed, since the beginning. What, nigga, what? So I was like, wait, what? No, Christianity hasn't changed since the beginning. It completely changed. It completely changed. And this is what they did. This is what Constantine and them and the bishops in Rome, this is what they did. They changed it. There's a reason why the Pistis Sophia is not included. There's a difference. So to say there wasn't a difference is completely, it is not true. Not true at all. And especially that's just a simple Google search. Is Christianity changed from its origins till today? It says yes. But if you're not reading history outside of Christianity, if you're not just reading general history, you don't understand this stuff. A lot of people, they just stuck on your religious belief. And sometimes you're just wrong. So yes, we see a change. It was a phase transition. All right. From the Gnostic Jesus, there was a debate between the Gnostic Jesus and, whether or not, rather the dogma Jesus. And when it went through Europe, so as it went through Europe, the ideology and the philosophy of Christianity began to develop to this European white supremacist structure. Now, again, I've already said that when they was writing the Gospels, when they was writing in the origin, the beginning of Christianity, these people who wrote that, they were not looking at it from an African worldview. So as they were writing it, they weren't drawing conclusions as African people would draw conclusions, as Black people would draw conclusions. They was writing it from a worldview that was already had a foundation in alienation, alienating themselves and seeing themselves separate from the Creator. The Creator is off somewhere out in space, distant, seeing nature as hostile, something to be controlled and conquered. That was the foundation they was coming from. So then it went through Europe. And the funny thing is, because I created this through AI, and I said, can you create an image of Christianity going through Europe and with leaving the blood trail behind, after it came out of Europe, and it created this image. That's all I put in there. The names up top, it did that itself. And I was like, holy shit. I didn't put those names up there. Machiavelli, Leo X, Voltaire, Rose Kent, Hegel, Darwin. I didn't put those names up there. It did that. And when you go through it and you look those names up, they had a profound impact on Christianity and its development. A very hard, profound impact on it. Shapeshifters. What began to emerge is a pattern in which, at critical points in the development of European culture, when its ascendancy appeared to have been threatened because of ambivalence, confusion, or malfunctioning of the machine, masterfully adjustments had been made that brought new clarity of purpose, a reconsolidation of energies, reinventing focus so that the machine would once again be efficient. These adjustments were sometimes in the form of what I have called modal changes, sometimes creations of political geniuses, frantically devoted to the objective of total control. What is she saying? When things got out of hand, when things were starting to go awry from the silly, they were able to what? Shift it back at certain times. And that's what happened with these European philosophers. They influenced it. They were able to shift things back into order. Because y'all getting out, whoa, you're going too far with it, yo. So these are some of the things, like I said, when I looked them up, they had an effect on it. And these are some things we have to consider. But I think, most of you already know the effect that the Europeans played in the Westerners played in Christianity. So again, their philosophy and their ideology was imposed on it through the Middle Ages. That's not, I don't think that's disputable. But I think the things that you guys leaving out is that the Greeks' philosophy was also posed on it in the beginning. Maria Ani points out that whenever their drive for absolute control is threatened by its own internal chaos, it mutates. Constantine mutated Roman imperialism into Christian dogmatism. The Enlightenment philosophers mutated Christian dogmatism into secular white supremacy. The rhetoric changes from saving souls to civilizing the savages to bringing democracy. But when you understand Yorugu, you see the exact same machine executing masterful adjustments to maintain its global ascendancy. That's what you guys are not seeing. You have to look at it from an African point of view, a Black point of view, world view. And so what Marim Ani is pointing out is that, when you take a step back from it and you analyze this from the view of the ancestors, from a world view of African philosophy, you see a system that doesn't change. It changes the skin color, but it's still the same. It is still the same. And we haven't figured that out yet. So the timeline that we see before, in the Common Era, 100 before the Common Era, you see the Mesopotamian civilization developing this ideology of alienation. They alienate themselves from the Creator. And then the early non-European Christians, the writers of the Gospels, they got their education from where? From people who was already alienated. And then we go to Constantine, who solidified it, helped make this into a weapon so they could conquer the world. So when I say it's Eurocentric, I'm looking at the foundation. I'm starting from the foundation. Their cosmology, they already started at a cosmology when they saw themselves as being threatened and living in a hostile environment and hostile with the Creator. They already looked at it at that. And I don't think I put that on there, because one thing Joe Covell talks about in his book was that they coming from this anxiety of, like I said, a hostile environment, and they need some way to refocus this energy, because if it's directed inward, it would destroy their culture. It would destroy them. So it's directed outward towards other people and towards nature and towards the Creator. So I don't think I put that quote in there. I don't think I put that on there. No, I didn't. I should have put that in there, but I ain't worried about it. But anyway, that's where they're coming from. So in summary, before the Common Era, 100 Common Era, the ancient Eurasian Mesopotamian cultures created a psychological framework of fundamental alienation, separating from Amma and nature. The early European Christians wrote the Gospels and their theology using this exact blueprint of alienation. They popularized the idea that the world is evil. Humans are separate from God, and exclusivity is necessary, and exclusivity is necessary for salvation. Constantine, 325. Constantine did not have to invent a system of control from scratch. He looked at the early Christians and realized that their theology of alienation and exclusivity was the perfect political weapon. If the church controls the only bridge to an to an external God, then whoever controls the church controls the minds of the populace. This is how I'm looking at it. These are the things that I see, that I've learned from the elders. So when we talk about it being a European religion, we got to start with their foundation and how they saw the world. While mainstream academia frequently critiques the biological reductionism of Bradley and Massey's linguistic methodologies, their work remains vital when reinterpreting through a psychological lens. I do not argue for a literal genetic transformation of aggression, nor a literal direct plagiarism of the text. They say they plagiarized it from Kemet. Oh, they got it. Nah, I'm not. I'm not. I don't even have to say that. We ain't even got to go that route. Rather, I utilize these works to illustrate how ecological trauma and the externalization of universal spiritual archetypes laid the psychological foundation for Constantine's empirical machine. Because Christianity arose in the Levant, Western Asia, and was immediately filtered through Greek and Roman intellectual structures, it inherited the exact Eurasian alienation complex. Even though it dropped the polytheistic pantheons, it kept the psychological architecture of warfare. The universe was still a battlefield between God and Satan. The material world was still fallen and cursed, and the humans were still born in a state of original sin, spiritually alienated from their creator from day one, because the religion was built on a software of alienation and binary warfare. European empires use it to their ultimate advantage. They projected their own internal anxieties and historical trauma onto the rest of the world. When they encountered Africa or indigenous people who lived in harmony with nature, the European psyche, driven by its inherited alienation complex, could only see savages and pagans who needed to be conquered, dominated, and brought into line into the machine. Conclusion. Modern global Christianity is the inevitable mathematical output of running ancient Nile Valley or Levantian Western Asian mythos through the operating system of European Assyrian. The structural changes enacted by Constantine were not just designed to save a fallen Roman Empire in the 4th century. They formulated a cross-generational blueprint for global dominance. By the time of the transatlantic slave trade and the colonization of the Americas, the theology of the historical, linear, and exclusively white Christ was fully optimized to act as the supreme psychological and lethal weapon for Western imperialism. I think that's it. That was it. Yeah, that was it.
Shots fired, brother Hercules. Shots fired.
So basically what I was just saying is that, when we're looking at this, we have to look at it from the beginning. And I take it back to, the Levant.
Hold on a second, Hercules. The link is in the chat, so anyone who wants to come in can come in. The Hercules, they coming for you, Hercules. They coming for you. So just be prepared. Take 2 deep breaths. They coming for you.
All right.
So the chat was hotter than fish grease.
All right. Listen, man. So Hercules.
Hold on. Give me a second. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. Be right back. I got to do something real quick.
So I'm going to say this. So this is my platform. As much as I want to put Herc in another blender, I'm not going to do that today. I think I've done that enough. I saw a lot of debunked information in this presentation, which is crazy. But the link is in the chat. We're gonna let some other people come up and talk they talk. Shout out to Hootie for coming in. Whoever else want to hit the link, hit the link. I heard an echo. Looked like it went away. I'm kind of shocked because I know Hercules is an astute brother, and yeah, I'm a little shocked because this was.
All right, I'm back.
So Herc, I gave you my word that I wasn't gonna give you no pushback, and I'm not. We got my brother Tahuti in the building. He was literally your biggest advocate in the chat. Tahuti, what did you think of the presentation? Do you got a question or a comment for Brother Hercules?
So for starters, I think the presentation was good, and you undoubtedly went through the methodology and the processes that actually show us that Christianity is in fact European. My only question is about the councils. Can you expound on the importance of not only Constantine's council, but the other councils that followed even after Constantine?
So the thing, like I said, the thing with Constantine, the main thing that I want people to take away is that it took something that was more, I would say, more spiritual, and made it and made it more realistic. For them, you know what I'm saying, for them, it was like I said, it went against their asili. It was hard for them to grasp on. So they had to change it. And it was a natural transformation for them. It wasn't like it had to go through, it had to match the asili, the idea of this European expansion of you have to consume and be in control. So if they're going to be in control, they can't be spiritually connected to the divine like it was before. That's because that's not alienated. They, so they come from this alienation as their foundation. So when we're looking at the first council and what Constantine did, we're talking about, first of all, making it legit, legal, for the Christians across the European Empire, and he's making this connection with Jesus, making this transformation of, and this is why I say it's hard. It's not, Christianity is not going to. I said this before. When you praying to Jesus is not going to do anything for Black people. It only works for them, because what Constantine, once he made that connection, what they did was they made a spiritual pact with Jesus. From that point on, all the way up till I would say the 1900s, they had a spiritual bond, and they slaughtered people in the name of Jesus. So they was making sacrifices in the name of Jesus, which is on a spiritual level. It fed that energy. So you're talking about an energy that actually exists on the spiritual realm that was being fed by the Europeans for thousands of years, and they killed millions of people, even their own people, and then killing millions of indigenous people and millions of Black people in the name of Christianity, in the name of Jesus. And this strengthened that bond, and it made a pact with them. That's why when we pray and we do stuff, it really affect. That's why Africa is still, in the state that it is. But yet you see Europe. That's what the first council.
And we got some other people in the on the panel. But finish your thought.
I would say then with Empress, what's his name, Theodosius. He makes Christianity like the official state thing for the religion and outlawed the traditional, all that other stuff, and made it, that pagan, they call pagan and stuff, illegal, which also, help, strengthen it as well. It's just, I think, but I think the main one was Constantine. He did it, and it just helped that European Assyrian strengthen.
Hey, Herc, I got my brother GT up here, the host of the GT Perspective right here on Paradigm Shift TV 314. I got to ask a question before we go over to him. Do you know what the Council of Nicaea was about?
Yeah, I just said it. They were standardizing. They was making Christianity standardized. It was a debate of whether or not, is it Gnostic Jesus or was literal or real.
Okay, so that I told you I wasn't gonna give you no pushback. My bad. I ain't gonna go. GT, it's on you. It's on you, bro.
No. I mean, let me know. Am I wrong or what?
Yeah, you wrong, brother. The Council of Nicaea was simply about the nature of Christ. Hear me out. Did he always exist with the Father, or was he begotten by the Father? In other words, was he a creation just like every other being outside of God? That's all the council was about. They didn't standardize anything. It was just, hey, you say this about Christ, you say that about Christ. Which one of y'all right? Constantine sided with Arius, even though the majority of the council sided with Athanasius. The other thing is, when did Christianity become legal? When did it become the legal? When was it legalized in the empire?
At the Edict of Milan, I think, right? Or at his death. He the one who accepted Christianity on his death. So I think it became legal after he died.
No. You were actually right the first time. The Edict of Milan, which was in 313. So that was 12 years before the Council of Nicaea.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed like, I feel like people conflate the two things, but I just, like I said, I got a proposal for you. We're gonna talk about offline, and I think you're gonna like the idea. GT, I don't know if that's your background noise, but it's on you, brother. Question or comment from my brother Hercules.
I don't know what's going on my phone, bro.
Yeah, your sound is horrible, bro.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
Look, you already said what I was going to say. So
your sound is bad, Hercules.
Breaking
up.
Hey, yeah, GT, I'm gonna see what's up. I might try to get you and Hercules together, but yeah, keep listening, and if you can come back in when it's clear, come back in.
Okay, I got you, man.
All right, we got Ben Eaton in the building. Ben Eaton, you got a question or comment for my brother Hercules?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, yeah, DMG, man, I watch you all the time. Man. I just don't never come on, but what's up?
I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate the support.
Yeah. Just peace to everybody on the panel. I did have a question for Hercules. I would like you to define what a Christian is and what Christianity is. And if that, yeah, I'll just start there.
Truthfully, I don't know. I think Christianity is the people who are following Christ, this person named, this Jesus guy. They created a religion around him. Those are Christians, and Christianity is their belief, I believe. I think. I really never looked up the actual definition.
No, that's fine. I'll take that. My last question is, are these people European?
So in the beginning, like I said, they were not today what we call European people, as we call white people. They are what our ancestors would call Amu or Tamu. These are foreigners to the land of black people. They originated from out of the Levant. They originated from out of the these mountainous mountainous areas. And so the reason I lump them in the same category is because, as Joe Covell pointed out in his book, we're looking at symbolism within their cultures, and they have the same symbolisms. Even though, you could go into say, oh man, these people, they have different structures and different DNAs and CLO22PED haplogroup, whatever. But culturally, symbolism, and we see the same alienation within both of them fighting against nature. Both of them are trying to fighting against their creator, fighting against the gods, and they see the gods as lying to them. But you don't see that with other cultures around the world. That's why they have a unique perspective on the world. They have a unique worldview. So that's why I will lump them together, because I'm looking at the symbolism of what they did and what they had, the foundation of their cosmology. That's where I'm coming from.
So it's a no.
I'm sorry, what you say? You said as the Europeans, as today? No.
So is that a no? That's a no.
Yeah, no, not today, no.
So okay, that's all right. That's really all I had.
Hey, can I make a comment on the Edict of Milan and why it still proves?
We back to you, Toad.
All right, so even though you bring up the Edict of Milan, to make the distinction and say that people conflate it, I mean, so for starters, people conflate it because the Edict of Milan grants Constantine the power to continue on with the plan that started from the Greco-Romans or the Greeks to try to overthrow spirituality. So the Edict of Milan made it official for Constantine to go through with councils and then give Christianity its official doctrine, its official character and main character in I Am Zeus, pretty much as far as the image of Jesus. They first Romanized the Canaanite Carthage Baal Haman, and when they Romanized Baal Haman, he changed into Serapis, and then from there they had
let him go, Ben. I'm gonna come back to you.
For Jesus. So the Edict of Milan, specifically because it's only 12 years from the council, that doesn't mean that Christianity is no longer European.
Okay, let me ask you this, Tahuti, and then we're gonna go back to I saw my brother Ben unmute, so I'm gonna go to him, and then we're gonna take it back to questions for Herc about the presentation. When you say they so you say just for clarity, and it's all I need is a yes or no. You saying that they created a character of Jesus? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, so your position is that there was no Jesus before this?
Yeah, there was no official Jesus because they had to steal. Okay. Remember, the story comes from Haru and Asar. So they had to steal an archetype for Jesus. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. So when would you agree that Jews don't view Jesus favorably?
To be honest with you, we can go with that, but it's because it's all Abrahamic, it really doesn't matter. But yeah, we can go with that. Go ahead with your point.
Yeah, no, I give clarity to it, so we don't have to act like we just going for it. They don't view Jesus favorably. They don't believe what people say about him, and none of that. However, despite not viewing him favorably, they mention him in the Talmud. Now, for those who don't know where I'm going, Jews don't believe Jesus is the Messiah. They believe he's one of many false messiahs. But here's the issue. Jews because of the vast population of people who believe in Christianity and how far it's spread, it would behoove them, of any people, to say this guy didn't exist. But they don't say that. They say they actually mention him in they book. My point in bringing that up is, if Jesus didn't exist, one of his main detractors would just say that cat don't exist. Instead, they mention him and they give credence to his miracles as witchcraft. So not only do they mention him, they actually give some credence to the miracles he conducted. But that's just one example. You got other historical figures who mention him or mention people adjacent to him. My point is, Christianity existed 300 years before either the Edict of Milan or the Council of Nicaea. Nero actually blamed Christians for burning Rome. So unless we saying these Christians believed in a character that wasn't invented until 300 years after they started doing what they was doing, I don't know how that statement would be accurate. I want Tahuti to respond to what I said, and then we'll go to Ben Eden, and then I want to get back to asking her questions.
Okay, so with the Judaism thing, you already admitted that there was an objection with the fact that they acknowledge Jesus, and then they have some sects that don't, but then there he is right there in the Talmud. So that goes to the point to where I mentioned earlier that it was a plan. So first it came the cults that developed into Judaism, and then that failed because they didn't have an actual mascot. They actually have similar connections to spirituality. So that's why we say when Constantine came along, he gave all of that substance. And when you officially start something, that is indeed an actual recognized starting point. So that's pretty much. And then the reason for the three Abrahamic religions not acknowledging or having certain negative things to say about one another, in the grand scheme of the European war game, they use as religions against each other just so they can, go to war with other nations and stuff like that. So it's a threefold veil that you have to flip up to understand Abrahamic religions and why one might not agree with Jesus or why they still think he exists, although, he's not the Messiah.
All right, let's go to Ben Eden. Ben, respond to whatever or whoever you want to, and then we're going to get back to asking her questions or giving them comments.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask Herc a question. I don't really care what Tudy said. That was absolute nonsense. But hey, Herc, what was your point on Mesopotamia? Like, how were you trying to interweave that point? Because I was completely lost at what you were saying.
Okay. Sorry, I was hoping I was able to tie it in. So the point I was trying to make was showing that these people who originated from out of the Levant, as well as these Greeks, these people from so quote unquote European origins, their cosmology is a cosmology of alienation. Both of them. They viewed nature as hostile. They viewed the universe as hostile. They viewed the creator as hostile. Their gods was hostile towards them. And so that's a complete different view. It's a contrast with Black people, African people. They didn't have that hostility. They didn't see that hostility between nature and the creator. So with that worldview, you coming up with that worldview is how they were able to create a philosophy coming from a philosophy of viewing nature is hostile, philosophy of separation yourself from the creator. And so with this philosophy, the Babylonians and the Greek people, they both has the same worldview. So with this philosophy, as we see in the early, as I was saying, in the early era of the Christian development and its origins, when you're drawing your conclusions, when you're drawing your statements, you're still seeing the creator as something far and distinct from you. Okay, and what the thing that Joe Covell talked about was that this you having this distinction of a creator that's distinct from you, and you have this anxiety because you live in an environment that's hostile towards you. This energy that you have, this negative energy and frustration within you, within the culture, has to be directed somewhere. And he says that it's directed, if it's directed inward, you would destroy your own culture, you would destroy yourself. So it's directed outward towards other people and towards nature and even towards the creator itself. And so that's why the idea that Jesus has to be sacrificed for you that's a European ideology. Well, I say European or Amu, the foreign, that's their ideology. They have to have the sacrifice for a creator, for them to maintain their sanity. So that's what I was trying to show, that link. So that's what Jacob Carruthers was talking about. There's this link of alienation that started with Mesopotamian people, and it connects with the European people, the Greeks and stuff, and this whole idea. And when they connect, they making this Marina Ani make the connection of this Asili, this power in their culture that is driving their culture inward, the energy inward, it would destroy the culture. So it has to be directed outward. And that's when you come up with whether or not you want to say, as Tahuti says, he don't, some people don't believe, Jesus was a real person or not. But you have to have the energy for someone to absorb that energy, to take on that energy, or else your culture would be destroyed. So that's where it comes in at.
Hey, Jose, real quick, can you post my last live comment real quick?
Sorry, I was away for a second. There were no Christians before Jesus. Christianity is an offshoot of Judaism, and religious Jews always worship Yahweh.
And that's the point that we've all been trying to make. When a lot of people, not just me and others on the internet, but a lot of people, as he showed in his presentation, you have Afrocentric scholars who bring us this information. So we know that if the Greeks tried to overthrow spirituality with cults, and then over time it became Judaism, but they weren't quite able to overthrow it. And then all of a sudden Constantine comes along and all these official edicts and councils make Christianity a real thing. And he has now a archetype and an image. We have to say that Christianity is not only European, but it started during the Roman era with Constantine's councils or
council. How are you guys projecting European to the past? Why are you using the term European?
But Tahuti, you're gonna get a lot of pushback on that comment that you're making.
Well,
gonna get pushback on that comment.
Well, this what I want to know though, because we know what the ecumenical councils was about. I'm trying to figure out what source do you have that say it wasn't about what we already know they was about? Because I just want to know where you're getting this information from that says the opposite of what history says. That's the only part that's confusing for me. I don't know about my man Ben, but it's kind of like we know what these councils was about. We know what the issues were, and then now it seemed like y'all telling us, no, it wasn't about that. It was about overthrowing spirituality. because this would be my question to Herc and to Hootie. The behaviors that you mention about Europeans, we find those behaviors on the continent. On the continent, they warred with each other, even though they felt about nature how they felt. That didn't stop them from warring with one another and fighting and killing each other. So, what is it that what did the European do that they didn't do in Africa?
Mm-hmm. So it's I'm not saying that I'm not saying that you don't see the wars in Africa. You definitely see that. The difference is the exception of the like when you did overthrow somebody, when one kingdom took over another kingdom, they didn't demonize those people, which is one thing that you see. Those people were absorbed into the community. You know, they became family members and stuff like that.
So when Norma said wretched Kush, he didn't really mean that.
I don't know about that one. But
Yeah,
when you talk about the normal palette, from the normal palette.
But let me jump in here. Just because you have a fight with your brother, that's not comparable to religious war or outside war. With other people.
Jose, Hercules is a big boy, man. He worked big boy draws. Let Hercules answer the question.
Yeah. So like I said, when we look at these kingdoms, when they took over and conquered the neighbors and stuff, there was never like this demonization of those people. Those people became a part of the family. And you see even some of those people, you know, even though they probably like lived like slaves or whatever for a minute, but they also become, you know, members of the royal family of that kingdom that conquered them. So it was a different perspective. And from the they didn't see nature as an enemy. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't out to conquer nature. You know what I'm saying? Remember, it's about living with nature. And so if you're talking about the normal palette, one of the things that Obadele Cambone points out is that he points out in his book, he just came out with a new book, and he says that, you know, these were not Nomar was not fighting against black people. He was fighting against non-black people. And he showed you that.
From Kush? Non-black people from Kush?
They weren't from Kush. They didn't come from Kush.
So why did he say wretched Kush?
I don't know where that part comes from, but I'm just saying though, what Obadele Cambone explains is that these were foreigners into the land, and he shows you that they were foreigners from they were Amu. They were not. I don't think he didn't say that they were from Kush. He breaks it down and he shows you that these people were not Nubians. That's on a normal palette. So, but the difference, I think the main difference that we see when they talk about when we see warring and we see the wars in Africa and between the wars with the Europeans is that you don't see an alienation. You know what I'm saying? There's not this.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of the book Wretched Kush, Ethnic Identities and Boundaries in Egypt's Nubian Empire by Stuart Tyson Smith?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
All right, so he actually goes into the fact that Egypt, and not every part, because there was some, remember, Kush was not one unified territory. So there were Kushites who fought in the Kemetic army, but there were also Kushites that fought against Kemet. My point being, when Norma in particular, or one of Nasut in particular, why you keep knocking my man down when I add him, Jose? What are you doing?
I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
I added him. You took him away. Do somebody
No,
else?
I didn't do that.
Do somebody else up here got admin capability?
No, he fell off. I didn't do that.
Come on, man.
No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. If I did, it was accidental. I really didn't touch it.
I think you. Come on, Jose. Come on.
No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. You know, I wouldn't do that.
But I just think that, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, bro. But I think a lot of us romanticize what happened in Africa, and because of the trauma from what the European has done, we try to look at Africa like it was Wakanda. In Africa, I love my African culture, whether it's Kemet, whether it's West Africa, it don't matter to me. I like African culture, especially African mythology. However, it was some stuff that wasn't too keen going on the continent, because that's what humans do. So I feel like when we try to make it seem like the continent was this harmonious place, and we had our conflicts on the continent just like everybody else do. That's one thing. The other part is, again, if this was to accentuate Christianity as a European religion, does that same logic apply? Because we know the European, you said it started out as in somewhere that wasn't Europe. They obviously co-opted it, distorted it, used it. Nobody would deny that. Is the biggest Kemetic organization in the world is run and attended by Europeans. Considering that that's the case, and they propagate the Kemetic orthodoxy, as they call it, more than anybody else around the world. And they have organizations globally, from what I understand. They call the white woman who's the head of their organization the Nasut. Would it be fair for me to say, considering that that's the case, that the Kemetic tradition is now a European tradition?
I don't know. I have to look at what they who are you talking about, and what they're talking about.
Okay.
Let me address
wait,
that.
Hold up.
I'll send it to you. I want to go to Ben. Then we'll go to the Kemet Infomonger. I see Steve smiling, so
Can I address what you
y'all.
said?
Hey y'all, I didn't learn something dealing with Steve. When Steve had that look on his face, it's about to get interesting. But we're gonna go to Ben, we're gonna go to Tahuti, and then Ben, the Kemet Infomonger, and then Tahuti.
Wait, hold up. I want to reply.
Go
Because
ahead.
I don't try to romanticize nothing about our ancestors. I look at both cases, and from from the last couple of years of looking at the brothers coming on YouTube, brothers and sisters, a lot of people they only want to look at, they want to try to knock down what is African history. They want to try to knock down the works that our elders have been working on, instead of trying to like doing both. Because for me, and this I guess this is for me as being a math person, we have to, when you do a proof, you have to also disprove it. So, growing up, I remember John Henry Clark said, you just can't read African history. You also have to read European history as well. And that's why, when I said that, when you talk about the Norman Pilot, you gave your example and your resource. And then, I said that, Abadale Cambone also, he explained that these weren't African people, that they were fighting. So, we have to look at both sides and compare them, and then draw our conclusions and, where we're coming at. But a lot of people.
Yeah, I told you I'm working on getting them on, so I'm definitely going to ask them about that.
But I'm just saying, a lot of people today, especially young people, they don't want to look at both sides. You just want to attack and prove your point, which I understand, but I think that's a fallacy in our in today's young ones.
Okay, and that's I will say this. For me, when we deal with African history, see, I'm into ancient Kemet. Obviously, all you got to do is look at my joint. I'm into ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, however you want to term it. Smatawi. I got a Kemetic name: Pianki Ptah Muntu Neferah Mun Ra. So Kemet is my jam. So is the Yoruba tradition. specifically the Orisha tradition. I'm looking at the Ifa tradition because I love that stuff. But I also know that a big part of African history, unfortunately for those who like got some trauma as it relates to Christianity, is Christianity. The current Christian theology of, in particular, the Trinity wouldn't exist without Africans. Without that strong African contribution to Christianity, there is no concept of understanding the Trinity or anything related to it. That came about because of Africans. So I feel like sometimes we discount the African contribution to Christianity, and it's similar to what we do here in America as it relates to our ancestors and their contributions to not just American history, but to our freedom as it relates to the Civil War. Our ancestors fought and gained freedom for themselves. They wouldn't set free, but we like to give it to Abraham Lincoln. I feel like we shortchange ourselves when we don't look at the whole picture. And I don't know if that's bias. I don't know what that entails, but it seems like we don't want to look at the entire picture when it comes to certain elements that we don't like. But
wait, hold up, DMG. Let me ask you a question before we go to, and let me let you think about it while Ben.
Real quick. After Hercules, I want Ben to chime in, Kim and Infomonger, and then Tahuti.
Yeah, so you said that, you feel like we neglecting the African influence or contributed to Christianity and the Trinity. So are you attaching the Haru Haset, the part to the Trinity, or you are taking that part out? I'm gonna just go ahead. But go ahead, Ben.
I don't even think Asar, Aset, and Haru are the influence for the Trinity. Jose noticed. I think Kemet had a Trinity that was more in line with the Christian concept of the Trinity than Asar, Aset, and Haru would ever be, because what is that? The Leiden? Is it Leiden or Leiden? The Leiden hymns. It shows that the ancient Kemetic people believed that Ptah, Ra, and Amun were the same being operating in preponderance. Even though they were separate deities, they were the same deity operating in different fashions. You had Ptah, who was the creative aspect, Ra, who was the expressive aspect, and Amun, who was the unseen aspect. And that's a primary text. It literally says they are the same being. So I think that's more in line with the Christian concept of the Trinity.
Okay.
But that's my take. Let's go to Ben, and then we go. Oh, my bad, Hurt. Was you done?
No, go ahead. I just wanted to get you. I just want to understand where you was coming from. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's go to Ben, and then let's go to the Kim and Infomonger.
Yeah, I'm gonna be quick. I was just gonna pivot off of what you were saying, DMG, and I think that is an absolutely fair assessment. You can't look at what Christianity is in our modern day, or even in our postmodern period, and equate that, or have that hold and have Christianity in its earliest centuries hold the burden of what it has become in our modern day. It just to call it European is just kind of like throwing away all that we know about the development of this religion, of this faith, and this historical context. To just call it European is anachronistic. It doesn't make sense. No one is calling themselves European. No one you will identify who are who are involved in this development you wouldn't identify them as European. You probably wouldn't even identify them as Greek, Roman. But so to have this term applied onto this religion in its earliest centuries, it just doesn't make sense to me. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, and I think without at least saying that there was a co-opting of this spiritual tradition, a distortion of this spiritual tradition. I think if we gonna throw Europeanism or say it's the white man's, we gotta say we gotta draw the line of demarcation between the original message and what the white man instituted. The same way Frederick Douglass did, and the same way I dare say our ancestors in the antebellum South did, because we had a slave narratives where they draw a line of demarcation between what the enslaver practiced, what the abolitionists practiced, and what they ultimately would be practicing when they had the invisible institution. But let's go to the Kemet Infomonger. And I don't know, when he looking cool, calm, and collected like that, man, somebody about to get that work. I gotta put my man on the big screen.
No, but you mentioned supposedly a Caucasian woman who is the head of the largest Egyptian or Kemetic spiritual society globally. The fact that it's a white woman, that's not surprising, because the Ptolemies, who occupied Kemet for about 15 dynasties or so, the last one being Cleopatra.
It's 300 years. 300 years.
The last one, and then her son, they were Greek. So, the fact that Europeans, as you say, they have co-opted our spiritual system, that is true. But the way that they practice is different than the way that we practice it. There is a distinction there. I can say, as someone growing up as a Roman Catholic, that pipe organ music and that kneeling and getting up and then kneeling, getting up and then going up there and sticking out my tongue for a wafer, that never really did nothing to me. As Black African people, and similar to how Christianity is practiced in the Black church, we have, particularly gospel music, we have soul. When you listen to soul music and you listen to gospel music, it's quite different. I listen to gospel, and it's quite different from how the Europeans sing their music. So there are differences. And for people who they said that we have no soul, therefore it's okay to enslave us. And so you took our soul away. We ain't got no soul. And then now we had to try to reclaim our soul through our music, soul music and soul food, and so on and so forth.
Shame.
But other than this, I put up a question in the chat about if the miracles that Jesus performed, if they were actual miracles. And somebody said, yes, they were. I would say that in ancient times, and maybe even sometimes today, we shower the Nasut or the priest or whomever. We shower them with these accolades, and I don't think that they're meant to be literal. And that may have also been true of Jesus the Christ. And Christ is the anointed one, right? And there have been many Christ throughout history.
Yeah, and Steve, this is what I'll say to that as far as my position. I tell people all the time, I'm not here to get nobody to convert to Christianity. I am here to get people to let me see. Somebody said something in the private chat. Hold on. Peace out. Oh, okay. Shout out to Ben Eden. Shout out to Brother Tahuti as well. I'm not here to get nobody to convert to Christianity. I don't care what people believe. I just believe whatever Black people are into. That's why I shout everybody out at the beginning of the shows on most occasions. I believe whatever Black people are into should have a space where it can be expressed and cream gonna rise to the top. So whatever is true in the end, we gonna find that out. But so I'm not here to convert nobody. That's for other people to do. I am here for actual history to be illuminated. And so that's why I push back on Christianity being European from the beginning. I'm not saying that it wasn't co-opted by Europeans, used, distorted, whatever other adjective you want to give what they did. It's just when we put from the beginning on it, I gotta give pushback. It's just like when people say Christianity was forced on our ancestors, but our ancestors say different. I gotta give pushback because our ancestors say they thought the enslaver was a hypocrite. Our ancestors say they wouldn't tripping off what the enslaver did. Now, when they also expressed that when they read the entire text for themselves and they were able to study it, when they were becoming literate and they would sneak and have church, they got a different understanding than what was tried to be put up on them by the enslaver. Hence, working with abolitionists who were believers and some abolitionists who wouldn't believers to to escape and get their freedom. And so I feel like we highlight the enslaver a lot, but we never highlight the abolitionists, whether they were believers or not, but particularly the ones who were believers, because we can contrast them to what the enslaver did. I think we never highlight what our ancestors said about the enslaver who claimed to be a Christian versus what they learned for themselves. And I just say, highlight the entire picture. You ain't gotta believe in it. You ain't gotta think it's real. You can think it's hogwash. But let's be clear about what the decisions our ancestors made and why they made them. Jose, I know you itching to get in here, brother. Get in here.
Nah, I was actually, I had something to say, but when you get old, shit just slip your mind. I was really gonna say, since you have this panel handle, I'm gonna thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Brother Mansa. I'm gonna assume that you're probably gonna do a presentation soon to respond to this.
Who, me?
I'm assuming. Yes, you. I'm assuming.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I think I want to get if Herc is willing to debate or have a conversation, I do want to get him with GT. Possibly have you moderated. If you're not available, then I'll do it myself. But I would like to see them.
I would think Hemi. I would think Hemi would be.
I
would go for Hemi.
Trust me. I think Herc and GT could definitely have this conversation, and it'll be a powerful debate. That's one that I would try to either make a members only or a pay-per-view, but I think that would be a powerful debate. I don't even know if Herc, have you had any debates yet?
Nah.
Yeah, see, Herc ain't had no debate, so it'll be his first one. It'll be like GT's second one. I think we gotta work on that, man. So Herc, let me know what your fee gonna be. But I think we gotta put that together. If nobody else is getting the link, I want to give Steve another opportunity to talk, and then we can get ready to shut this thing down. Herc gonna get the last word.
At the Council of Nicaea, there were bishops present at the Council of Nicaea. That means that Christianity was established. And as I posted in the chat, that those were the Orthodox Christians. So the Orthodox Christian Church already existed. And the Orthodox Christian Church said it came about from the time of Christ. That's what it says. But then you have that's what it says. Then you have the Coptic Church. The Coptic Church, the so-called Ethiopian or Kemetic Coptic Church, came about in 40 CE to 42 CE. Even though they say is Timothy or one of the apostles.
Mark. It was supposed to be Mark.
Yeah, Mark brought it to Egypt. But the fact is that Christianity was in North Africa. The fact is that
before it was in Europe.
Yeah, it was, and many people will tell you that it was there.
Yeah,
led
that's
by
why I'm
Europeans.
confused because the brother Tahuti Afar keeps saying there was no Jesus before the council. Christianity was well established before these councils. I don't understand this.
Even in Hercules' presentation, he showed you bishops present at the Council of Nicaea.
Yeah,
in 325 BC.
So who did they believe in? If this figure didn't, yeah, I'm just, even if you saying he was a fictional character, he was a fiction that already existed.
Right.
So that's the only thing I'm
And,
just
and I'm not a Christian, but I mean I'm standing up based on authority. I mean, I'm sorry, based on history. But I'm not a Christian. I'm not for or against Christianity. I'm just telling you my understanding of what the history says.
exactly. And my only thing to and this will be my last thing to the brother Tahuti, because he said that's not evidence that is not European. Again, my position is that if a thing doesn't start in Europe, we have to be very very clear on how it became. It began to belong to Europe. Now, if we want to say Europeans co-opted it, distorted it, etc., but as Steve said, the Orthodox Church existed. It also existed when Rome, alongside Rome, after Rome appropriated this belief. So I feel like people gotta really get into actual history and not the history they want it to be, because I feel like that's a lot of what's going on. I ain't saying that about her, but my brother Tahuti, for you to say it's just plain and simple European without giving clarity, I think is a mistake on your part, and I would advise you not to get into any debates as it pertains to that, because that'll be a bad debate to say Christianity has its genesis within the European paradigm, because it's just simply not historically accurate. That being said, I think what Hercules is saying is something else, but I could be wrong. Either way, Jose, we heard
Yes,
from
sir.
the Kemet Infomonger. You got any last words?
Well, thanks everyone. It was a wonderful presentation. If anyone has any pushback, we don't have a problem with that. So you can always contact DMG to do a presentation or a possible debate if you would like to. You can contact either one of us if you like. And is the call out still being done tomorrow?
Yes, sir. That I know of. And we got an all Israelite panel tonight, Brother Ash, Brother Gideon, Captain K, and Brother Kassad. We talking about the law, modern living, and Israelite unity. Y'all come back for that. That'll be at 7:15, roughly 2 hours from now. In the meantime,
Just let me thank Brother Hercules. I know putting all that time and effort that you put in. I know, and it was a very thorough presentation as well. So
and the visuals was, hey, you ready to debate, brother? We got to get you in the ring, man.
They can, but notice all the scholars, all the academicians. we repping Kevin.
No doubt. Herc, it's on you. Take as long as you want to close this thing out.
Just want to say thank you guys for coming through. I know y'all had better stuff to do today, but y'all decided to waste your time with me. I appreciate it. So I hope my point of so what I'm saying is this: what I'm drawing from my understanding from Marie Ba'ani and Jacob Carruthers, Job Covell, Michael Bradley. Again, Michael Bradley says it's a biological thing with the Iceman inheritance, but I don't know. I said I don't agree with that, because we could look at Asians who also grew up in a harsh climate, the cold climate, but they didn't develop this alienation towards nature. So my thing was that because Ben was asking how you making this. He didn't understand how I was making this connection with the quote unquote Europeans. And we say the Europeans today, white people. So the thing is this: is I'm looking at you. So you have to look at it from the beginning. I say you got to look at it from the beginning, as these people began to migrate out of their caves when they started to come out. These people who our ancestors didn't know, they didn't refer to them as Europeans or white people. They called them Amu. They called them Tamu. They called them, the foreigners. These people who come from these nomadic tribes that came out. And so these people, they came out in the beginning. Their cosmology was a reflection of alienation because they saw nature as hostile. They saw the creator as hostile and distinct from them. So when you read their cosmology, you see them fighting with their creators. They're fighting with the gods. This is in Greek and Babylonian. This is in Roman. All this stuff. So this laid a foundation for the educational system that was in place when the Greeks took over the Mediterranean. When the Romans took over the Mediterranean, when the Persians took over the Mediterranean, they come from a foundation of alienation cosmology. So this foundation, like I said, this foundation laid the basis of educational thought. Just think of it just as today. The book Miseducation of the Negro, written by Carter G. Woodson almost 100 years ago, says that the educational system here in America is detrimental to Black people. It does not help us at all. Amos Wilson also wrote The Falsification of the African Consciousness. Naim Akbar, Breaking the Chains of Mental Enslavement. There's a lot of, we have several Black people that are saying that the educational system benefits the European, the white America hegemony. It doesn't benefit us. So it's the same thing. When you go back 2,000 years, we see that when the Greeks, the Persians, the Romans, this education system that the Greeks laid a foundation in the Mediterranean, the people living in that area, even though they were not Greek or were not, we say they were not white, they was learning under a foreign educational system that was not Black, that was not African centered. So their worldview came from this foundation of alienation. So this development of seeing the world as alienated and you are distinct and not distinct, you are in conflict with the environment. The creator is not a part of you, it's off somewhere. This is an Amu worldview. It is not an African worldview. And so that's what I'm trying to, that's what I was trying to draw these steps to show you how the early gospel writers, the early people, even whether they were, Israelites, Jews, whoever, with these people, they came from an alienation worldview, which was completely opposite of an African worldview. And this is what I think you guys are missing, because as they begin to, as I said, Jove Covell's point out in his book, they had this internal battle within themselves. Mariba Ani was explaining to us that the asili of their culture demands expansionism. It demands domination. It demands control. But if you're not going to expand yourself, if you're not doing what it demands, then it's going to internally, you're going to eat up yourself. You're going to fight yourself. So they had to find something, somewhere, someone to release this energy and this hatred that they have inside of themselves. Okay, and that hatred was released upon nature, was released upon other people, was released upon the creator. Wait, sorry, that's my son. Open, come in. All right, sorry. It was released upon this ideology in their religion. So it had to be, they had to have a sacrifice of savior, an archetype, that can absorb this energy that they had. And that's where Jesus comes in. That's where, that's where Jesus had to be sacrificed comes in because it's a part of their guilt, their releasing their energy so it don't destroy their culture. And that's completely opposite from an African cosmology where you are one with the creator, where you're not condemned, you're not damned. Human life is not, seen as something that needs to be saved. That's completely opposite. So it's hard to understand because we grew up in a Western culture, so we're looking at it through Western lens. And so, like I said in the beginning, you have to.
Okay, time out right quick, and I'm gonna let you finish your close. And I just got one question. When you say that it was contradictory to the African worldview, which one? Because in Kemet, and Brother Jabari brought this out. Mm-hmm. He said Kemet had a savior. And while it wasn't a concept of what like the Bible calls sin, there was an issue with Isfet, or being counter to nature or your fellow human. Hence the whole heart weighing less than a feather. But the concept remains the same. In order for you to become one with the soil, your heart had to weigh less than a feather. In the Orisha tradition, you had the concept of, while it wasn't called sin, it may have been called corruption. Which African culture were these concepts of alienation foreign to? Because the Kemetic tradition, when we look at Kemet, Kemet had territory or vassal kings in what we now call the Levant or Canaan. Mm-hmm. And so expansion isn't a sole European concept. Otherwise, Kemet would have just stayed within Kemet. Mm-hmm. But also the Kemetic tradition, it wasn't for non-Kemites, was it? Did non-Kemites believe in the Kemetic tradition, or was that a chief concern of the people of Kemet?
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, no, those are good questions. Those are definitely good questions.
The
but
answer is no, Hercules. The proper answer is no. They were not initiated in tradition in that way. So
I know. But so the answer that they have a savior is no. And no African spiritual system, there was this concept of a savior.
So I want to get this on the record. So Jabari's savior, I forgot what he called it. I got to go back to his debate with Richard Perry.
The acronym.
His savior's model, that's pseudo.
Because I didn't hear what he said, and you have to be you want to say exactly what he said, because
it's an acronym. It's an acronym.
Yeah, because you got to remember. Here's the thing. Wait, hold on. Here's the thing with African spiritual system. There is no concept.
Here's the main point. And Jose, go back and look if you think I'm making this up.
No, he did say says
that Heru and Asar were saviors in ancient Kemet.
No, but here's the thing. There is no concept of like original sin. They didn't have a concept, this ideology of alienation in any African spiritual system that you go. And they didn't have, you have to be saved because they understood that we come from the creator. We come from that spiritual realm. We come from the universe. So there is no concept of that. You have to be saved.
So a savior in ancient Kemet is pseudo.
I would just say I would say that I think this idea of a savior is being in ancient Kemet is being misrepresented. I don't know how they represent it.
Okay. There was something called a caress, but that's not necessarily the same thing as Jesus Christ. It has several layers to the idea of a caress. The caress is a tomb.
No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about when Jabari Osaze, Him Tetanepi, said Asar and Heru were considered saviors. Because if you became one with a sword, that would allow you into the field of reeds.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said. So I'm just making sure. If that's incorrect, that's incorrect. But I interrupted Hercules close out. Let me let the brother finish. Let me go on mute.
Can I just say something real quick? That may be the Shrine of Ptah or the Shrine of Ma'at. That doesn't necessarily mean it's for all practitioners. But other than that, what Brother Hercules, what you were saying about nature, that's a very poignant piece right there. That I, as a former living environmental biology teacher, to bring this out to my black students, and they really think that's the way that the European, that's how they're being indoctrinated to think that nature is against them because we're so alienated from nature. And in that sense, we're alienated from our God. We're alienated from our Creator. My students did not. I would ask them straight. So you mean it with a lion? Will a lion continue to hunt wildebeest or gazelles until kill them all, or when it hunted and it got his belly full, would it rest and take a rest? They seem to think that that them lions and them predators, they will go out and hunt their prey to extinction. I try to help them to understand that, and it doesn't function that way. That there is a balance within nature. That Ma'at is within the nature and the universe. They do have a perverted. There is that contrast between the European or the Eurocentric worldview and the universal view and the Afrocentric worldview. But the European dominates so much that even we as Black people, we think that that's how it is. No, that's the way the European and others, not only the European, Genghis Khans, these conquerors, that's what they inflict on us, and that's the way that we have been indoctrinated to think. But it's not really like. Other than that, ain't nobody out. There is nobody out. Nobody coming to get me. All right. If there's nobody out to come to get me, at Osero Set, one of our major teachings is that I am one with all. That I'm at peace. I have no enemies. That I am one with all. There is no one out to get me. And these are different traditions. So the Shrine of Ma'at or the Shrine of Ptah, when Brother Jabari teaches, he's not teaching for all of us. He may be teaching what he teaches in the Shrine of Ma'at.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I just realized this, and when Steve said that, I forgot, Steve. Y'all both teachers. Y'all both educators, man. I gotta get y'all on to do a show together.
Me and Heru? I mean, sorry.
You and Hercules. Hercules is an educator as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's fine. But that's true about the educational system and the way that our young people, Black, we're indoctrinated to think the same way. That point is very true. And that's how they see nature. You could look at Charles Darwin and the rest of them and this Eurocentric perspective. That's how they look at things.
So listen, family. My man GT, host of the GT Perspective right here on the platform, Paradigm Shift TV 314, versus Hercules. Is Christianity a European religion? I think we got to do it. $10 or members only. $10 pay-per-view or members only. Hercules, I need to know your price, brother. I need to know your price.
All right, so
hey, GT, Hercules about to close out, brother, but I'm gonna get y'all together. We might just do a phone call if Hercules interested.
Okay, my bad, bro. My bad.
No, I know you at the game, brother. I know you at the game. It's all good.
Yeah, I was like, let me try and log in this way, and it seemed like it worked. But just let me know what the subject gonna be, and Herc, if you can hear me, I would love to have a conversation or even a debate on whatever topic you want.
Okay, no problem.
All right, Herc. All right, no interruptions this time for real. I'm muting out.
But yeah, like I said, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I know it's a controversial subject between our people, but I think that the part that you guys are missing is what I said, that you have to consider this foundation of alienation cosmology, and you have to consider who was being educated at that time period, how they were being educated, and how they was looking at things. So you can see different worldviews and different outlooks. And it ties into what Marine Baani talked about, the Asili of this culture, of these people, these nomadic people that our ancestors called the Amu, this Asili that they had in their culture that demanded chaos. And so it's not an African thing. It's not a black thing. So it would have to be something else. It can't be ours, just because we got a lot of black people in the military. We got a lot of black people who graduate from MIT, who graduate from Harvard, but yet what you can still see that they have a Eurocentric mindset. You can still see that they fight to maintain the hegemony of America. So this mindset, this miseducation, did not just happen in the 19th century. It also happened 2,000 years ago. I'm not gonna say it's deliberately. I wouldn't think it was probably deliberately back then as it is today. But the same mindset. So that was my foundation. I drew my conclusions from Marimba Ani's Yorugu, Joe Covell's White Racism, Jacob Carruthers' Meta-Netras book, and so my conclusion is that it is Eurocentric because the foundation of the thinking of those people at that time comes from a foundation of alienated cosmology, which distinguished themselves from nature and the creator. They saw the creator as being hostile and off distance to them, as opposed to an African worldview where the creator is one with you and is not hostile. So my recommendations, I would say recommendations. How do we change this? How do we get back? How do you get back to it? The recommendation is that you have to strip away the European ideology and philosophy, and you have to get back to including the Pistis Sophia, the Gnosticism that was included back then. I've only met one person who said that, because most of the people, you stand on the Bible, stand on the King James Version, but they've never read the Pistis Sophia, the Gospel of Mary of Magdalene. They've never read this stuff. Just because white people or Europeans consider that as not gospel, doesn't mean that we have to consider that not gospel. I don't understand, why would we do that? Why are we following in their footsteps? All right, but yeah, I would say, we gotta get back to original African thought. And when you analyzing European culture, when you're analyzing something that is not African, you have to use a different tool to analyze. You can't use Western tools to analyze Western culture. And so that's what I gotta say. I'm out, you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Let's have fun.
My bad, family. I was muted. That was Brother Herc. Y'all seen it here first. The brother put down a lot of powerful information, powerful presentation. The visuals was off the chain. He will be back. We're going to try to see what we can get together with him and GT. I also wouldn't mind getting a panel with him and Steve, both being educated men and educators of Afrocentric ideology. I think that'll be a powerful show. So y'all come back and rock with us in about an hour and a half, man. We got an all Israelite panel. We talking about the law, modern living, and Israelite unity. We ain't gonna be before you too long. I know it's the finals, but come back if you will. Until then, man, we will be black at it. That was Brother Herc. And why Christianity is a European religion. Shout out to the brother, and we will be black at it. You will see him again. Till next time, that is peace. We out.
I told y'all what to step into. I ain't disrespecting you, son. You want it to be that way. What? You wanted to be one way. But it's the other way.
Yeah. Funny how everybody loved the debate till the judges say they lost. Funny how everybody claimed they want smoke till the scorecards come across.
My name is my name.
Everybody gangster when the verdict go their way. Taking victory laps, posting on social media all day. But let them catch an L, now the judges all corrupt. Now the rules wasn't fair, now the platform messed up. When you won, it was justice. When you lost, it was rigged. When the spotlight was on you, man, you danced a little jig.
Funny how the narrative changes overnight. You a scholar on Monday, by Tuesday ready to fight.
Y'all don't want accountability, you want applause. Want championship treatment without championship flaws. See, debate ain't about feelings, it's about evidence, argument, and skill. Sometimes you climb the mountain,
sometimes you fall down the hill. You want it to be one way,
but it's the other way.
but it's the other way.
When you win, it's all love.
When you lose, it's another day. You want it to be one way,
but it's the other way.
the same judges you praised last month ain't fair today. You want it to be one way,
but it's the other way.
the facts don't bend for feelings, no matter what you say. My name,
Yeah,
my name.
the hate got me laughing. It really tell the story. If the platform wasn't working, why they obsessed with my glory? Every week somebody got an opinion to proclaim, but they still tune in faithfully. That's free promotion of the name. Paradigm shift, TV 314 still standing, while critics in the comments keep demanding and demanding. See the infamous perspective, giving viewpoints room to breathe. The black church files digging deeper than was seen. The Kim and take over, bringing culture to the floor. The GT perspective, asking questions they ignore. Here you get many choices, ladies night giving divas voices. Different minds, different paths, different truth. Reaching the elders and the youth, but it's the other way.
You said the platform needed you, but somehow you still stayed.
Yeah,
You wanted to be one way,
but it's the other way.
the show keeps moving forward even after people stray. You wanted to be one way,
But it's the other way.
the audience decides, not the stories that you made. My name is my
I've seen debaters come and go. Some legends, some pretenders. Some became champions, some became contenders. Some accepted losses and came back even stronger. Others spent 6 months complaining and being bitter even longer. Everybody wanna run a platform. Everybody got advice, but very few know the sacrifice, are willing to pay the price. Fight facts, challenge views, give the people real discussion. Not excuses when you lose. So whether they applaud or whether they complain, one thing remains forever.
My name is my name.
But it's the other way.